Showed up, yeah.
And I'm, I know, excuse me, Fran is out today and tomorrow. So I'm gonna put the agenda up on the screen. I know most of you may have it, but for anyone
Yeah.
who pops in the
Great.
room here, so.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
No problem.
All right, well, I guess we'll just, are you gonna do the call to order, Eric? Is that okay?
Well, I guess I certainly can, yes. So we have a quorum, so the Crossroads Business District Advisory Commission meeting is in order, so. Let you move on to minutes if you want. I can pull them up for you.
Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yep.
So Bob, we would just need a motion and a second to it and then
Right.
vote to approve, so.
I'll motion.
Was that Heidi?
Yep.
Second,
I'll motion
please.
to.
Second from Chris. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Okay, Eric, those are approved. And
Great.
let's go right into our old business, the streetscape project.
Absolutely, Bob, if I can just real quick, and let me ask, I don't believe our guest is on, and that's fine, but we did have a streetscape, not excuse me, the beautification grant application come in. And so I had intended if the visitor was here to address it under visitor comments. It's for Lark Spa right on Big Bend. They have submitted an appropriate application for well over $4,000 for their beautification in line with the program and have asked for the $2,000 matching grant under the business district for that beautification. Paint, which I think the paint has been done, landscape planners fitting the building and such, and then metal wraps around certain corners of that building. And so the property owner has agreed, obviously, to these beautifications they've made. Staff have found it in order. I know Miss Dolan is not on, but I don't see any reason that we couldn't approve the grant for that amount. So, but if you want to hold it over for a month, we can. So
Eric, do you have the written application?
I do. Yes,
Could you, is there any way to get that on the screen?
that's a great question. Right off the top of my head, no, I don't have a way to get it on there. Sorry, but happy to answer any questions about it. And if you want to have me send it out and review it, we can do that as well for next meeting. So.
And did you say part of it was for painting?
Yeah, so there's painting, facade, and cleaning. So they did provide pictures. They have the building is the old Edward Jones building was brown brick and is now become they're painting to white, and then they're black lettering above the door for Lark Shop and Spa. So and then black trim around the windows and the door frames. So that's for $2,200 of the application. Cement planters, a small amount, 159 at 2. Landscaping within the built-in planter box and those 2 new planters, and then they're replacing the metal wrap around the awning that is there, the metal wrap over that space. So. But I'm more than happy if you want to hold this over and examine it next month. We certainly can. So.
I'm fine with it.
Anybody have any questions about it?
No, I'm fine with it. It's holding it over is just gonna delay it. I think I saw the painting and I'm sure they did the rest.
Are there any rules we have to follow about, or is it just facade work?
No, there are guidelines, Allison. That's why I asked the question about the painting. I don't think the painting would qualify, but everything else sounds like it would. It has to be a facade beautification, and I think we've just called in the past painting as maintenance. So, but I think everything else would qualify.
Okay,
Yeah, and Bob, you know the rules on it better than I do. I don't have the rules, and if painting doesn't apply, and that's the majority of the costs, then I don't know how to deal with that.
Right, because previously I don't believe that we did include the painting for facade beautification.
Well, we are more than happy to take it back and re-examine and make sure we got it right and provide it, and we can do it at next meeting if you wish.
Sounds good.
Just out of curiosity, there was so much in painting costs, then there were $259 planters and some plants and some metal edging.
Correct.
What was the cost of everything minus the paint?
Minus the paint would be about 1,900.
For all the other upgrades?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Painting was 2248 for painting and the facade cleaning, so pre-painting.
So we would be paying for everything but the painting.
Or $100 of the painting or whatever.
In this case, I think even, we've rejected painting in the past because we've called it maintenance, but I mean, this arguably is facade beautification to the painting because it gave it a whole new look. And it's really close with all the other costs. I'm perfectly fine with approving. I think like Chris said earlier, I don't see any reason to delay it. I think we're right there at 2,000, and that's what we need to match the 2,000. So I'll motion to approve the request.
I will second it unless there's some issue anywhere that I'm missing.
I don't think so.
I'm fine with it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I didn't hear anybody. All right, well, Eric, I think we got that one approved.
All right. We have a visitor with us, so I want to just pause and make sure if there's anything you wanted to address before the body today, or if you're here for a certain topic.
Nope, it's Jeff Sanders.
Okay.
Good
Just
job.
sitting in.
So,
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
we haven't had a chance to meet. I'm Eric Peterson, the Assistant City Manager.
Hi, Eric.
Nice to
Eric,
meet
I own the building at 8780 Pickup.
Okay, got it. All right, so streetscape. We had a great meeting with Allison, Chris, Josh. Did I miss anyone from the district? I don't believe so. From the commission, it was a very good meeting. Really came up to speed on a couple things, including for me, being new to the city and stepping into your very long-term project here in this moment. We also have received confirmation from the county. We're waiting on one person from the county to give us a date for next week or early the week after for the county meeting promised out of that meeting that we had at Nearing Design. So we are moving forward. The architect or the engineering firm is obviously engaged and does plan to have drawings for that meeting based on what we discussed about the rights at Gore and I never remember the name of the street. That is the most important street in this whole project. So
Great.
thank you, Baker.
Baker.
I keep wanting to say Swan and I know it's not Swan. So, so we have moved forward on the meetings. We also have the notice for the grant application has been sent out. So we know that we have this cycle through February and Cochrane is preparing to pull all that together. So we are moving into that space, and also the grant terms are being sent to us. They did reach back to me last week and said they will be sending out all the rubric of scale for the award and what points we need to acquire and meet. So we'll have all of that for grant for review prior to submission. So in my opinion, and certainly members who were there, you can speak differently, but I thought it was after we worked through some of the bumps and getting everyone up to speed, a productive meeting, and that the county has followed through, indicating they're willing to have this next meeting with Cochrane and members of the district to go over these and then to look again and continue forward on the grant application path. So I'll pause there and happy to answer questions or hear from other members that were at that meeting as well.
Eric, do you by chance have that you can pull up? Are you able to pull up our, Jeff hasn't seen them, our sort of up-to-date design drawings on the streetscape? Do you have that at your fingertips?
I do not. Unfortunately, they're stuck on my computer and off the network. That's not attached to this computer, sorry.
Okay.
But I can certainly get them and have them sent to Jeff, so. Get them and get it to you, so.
I did see what was out at the last meeting, Bob.
Did you pull up the minutes?
Yeah, I pulled up the minutes and watched the video. So I saw the Elm and Big Bend intersection, but I don't know what's been discussed on what to do with Baker in that intersection.
Okay, well,
I can catch up after I look at drawings.
does maybe the committee want to kind of give just a 5-minute narrative to Jeff, what we're all trying to accomplish?
Well, who
Anybody?
can summarize it? Heidi, you've done it forever.
Yeah, Heidi, you've done it forever.
Oh, Heidi's not unmuted yet, so. Better.
Well, Jeff, what we're looking at
Okay.
is. Oh,
There she is.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so what we were trying to do is, now that the Hickson Junior High School has so many more students, the intersection at Elm and Big Bend is becoming increasingly more dangerous, as is the intersection at Big Bend and Baker with the students walking to school. So there is an impetus here, or an emphasis on trying to get the streetscape off the ground and getting a new grant application in with East-West Gateway. That's the name of it, right, Bob?
Yeah.
And for us to go forward and get this grant application. So I think, St. Louis County, excuse me, is assisting us with the Elm Big Bend intersection. And then we are going forward with Cochrane Engineering to come up with different scenarios to deal with the Big Bend Baker intersection, Big Bend Baker and Gore. And Chris, you can weigh in on this too. We discussed several options at our meeting with Cochrane and what would be the safest. There was an option. Well, the bottom line is making Baker one way.
Right.
And then Chris, you want to weigh in on this too with me?
Yeah, so there was one other option that we talked about. Do you remember? It was putting the triangles.
Right, putting the triangles and making only right turns.
Yeah, you could only make, so the triangle would come up right on Gore at Big Bend there. As you come up Gore towards the railroad tracks, there'd be a triangle, and on Gore, you could either only go right or straight, but you would have a triangle there and you'd have one on Baker. And those two triangles, when you're coming out of Baker, you can only take a right. You can't go straight, so you'd have to go a different way. It would kind of force them to do something different. I can't remember the exact flow right now, but the idea was it was the least disruptive because you've got all those people with a driveway down there, you've got houses, and once we start moving things around or trying to do a roundabout or something, everything just kind of runs out of room fast. So
Yeah, Chris, if I can just add to that, in that from what Cochrane was talking about, barring the step into moving the house right on the corner of Baker Gore, Big Bend with that driveway that comes almost right into the intersection, unless we're going to go at property acquisition, the double rights was their conversation about, and I'm calling it that, to be able to get somewhat of a protected entrance off that driveway there without backing onto Big Bend, and also to give median access to get kids across, and hopefully not darting across all of Big Bend near the tracks there. So it would be a right, if you're coming on Big Bend westerly, it would be a right turn only onto Gore. If you're coming south on Gore, you could only make a right turn onto Big Bend. And that there would only be a Big Bend, a right turn onto Baker, and a right turn off of Baker easterly onto Big Bend. So would eliminate the left turn stops at that corner. So that would include Gore, which, another thing that the council would have to approve, but that's, we were working through what the business district was looking for, and then, bring that to council.
Right.
And additionally, coming up over the tracks by the Art of Entertainment is that part of that over the overpass, part of the agreement was over the overpass to the railroad tracks. is to continue Big Bend down into one lane, slowing the traffic up and over the railroad tracks down into our business district. Was the other thing that was discussed. That was part of it.
Chris, did Cochran have this in a design, this alternative idea about the triangles? And would the triangles be striped, or is it raised curved islands, or
Yeah.
what are they exactly?
It was a raised curb island idea.
Yep, it was to pop it up a little bit, not striping, because people will go over the
Just
striping.
drive over the striping. Did you guys form any any ideas or conclusions, or is it just an initial idea?
It was
Was
an
it-
initial idea.
Yeah, to basically put it together, a couple of different scenarios to put together when we went forward with county. So that when we went forward to county, we had some options, and that the purpose of that meeting with county then was to come down with basically a final decision of how we're going to deal with that, hopefully to get it moving forward, was my idea. Chris, was that what you took from it as well?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's really a matter from the conversations with county, and they have not been opposed to the concept as I explained it from the meeting and as Cochran explained it. It's a matter for them of their plows. They use a certain size plow, and you put medians on that street and such, and does that interrupt their plowing traffic? And so those are the kinds of things that county wants to look through. If county gets, especially us, meaning the city, to help with Big Bend improvements, across the tracks, especially if we're going to go to restriping and asphalt improvement, those objections are not insurmountable, and we think we have a position to be able to work through that and move the project forward.
Okay. It seemed like after we went through all the ideas of moving stuff, shutting down streets, putting up barriers, going one way, doing all these things, that if we just forced everyone into right turns with small little islands, we actually could solve a fair amount of the problems and deal with a lot of the craziness up there.
Right, without taking anybody's land or reconfiguring driveways or reconfiguring, too much of the road direction to begin with, so that it wouldn't become like an even more insurmountable task by changing direction of the road. So.
Yeah, and I think it was going to work pretty well. And then what I remember, Eric, is just as a thing for Bob and anyone else who didn't remember, they also required us to tackle from the railroad tracks back to the bridge.
Right, and restriping it to make it a single lane anyway.
Yep.
So.
I've been watching every day, and there was an accident the other day. Their cars crashed into each other. There were 5 almost really bad accidents yesterday. And I saw about 6 groups of kids do exactly what Bob or someone had said before. They moved right underneath the railroad tracks there. So someone flying over that thing would just hit a group of kids if they were speeding through there and didn't see it. So it is a crazy intersection. I wish I just want to take my camera, film it for like a week, and then show it to someone.
Right. Yep. I mean, those were the major discussions to try to calm the traffic there, to get everybody turning right, and to attempt to force the kids down to Chris's side of the street to cross at Gore, rather than trying to cross at Art of Entertainment across Big Bend. Now, I don't think you're ever going to totally control that, because kids are going to run across where they're going to run across. But so then, with that in mind, it's calming the traffic coming up and over the railroad tracks there, and making our best attempt to force them to the other side of the street to cross over near Gore at Chris's property.
And I would just add real quick, the one other thing, if you think of that area between the railroad tracks and the Gore intersection, there's obviously the left turn lane, that widening area on the road strip there. So there's plenty of current road surface to also add a grade separation median there to prevent the left turns, prevent an illegal left turn and such across, which as a pedestrian buffer can also help to move people down. And we're not talking just let's put up a curb and ugly looking yellow things. I mean, it could even be a nice wrought iron fence. It could be many things to help try to push pedestrians towards marked and much safer crossings, students or adults.
I'm thinking of the yellow barriers in front of the Starbucks on Brentwood. They put up yellow, not like that.
No, I think we were thinking more in terms of what's more like down in Lockwood when you have a median that is constructed of dirt and plants and trees. You know, people are a lot less likely to go through all of that vegetation when you have it, and it's eye pleasing to the district, something that we're trying to attempt to gain control of in our district.
I see. Good, good.
And certainly those are things that already our horticulture team puts together for the plants and the pottings of, you know, Old Webster and Old Orchard. So we can roll that program activity in those medians right into that as well.
Yeah, and it would be a really nice, it's so concrete over there and so industrial looking. It would just kind of soften that whole area, provide a little bit more vegetation before you get to the highway for the homes and everything.
But I think it will have an effect of just calming it down a little bit, because I think that's part of it. It's just a speed through because it is so concrete and industrial.
So is any of that drawn on plans now, or is this all just?
Well, so that's what those are the concepts that we left the meeting with, and we kind of like took notes and hand drew them on the drawings that we had. And Cochrane was then taking that, our representative from Cochrane, who was at that meeting, who I have to say I was pretty impressed with. If you were too, Chris, this is the first time we've had this representative from Cochrane. He was very interested in the project. He was going to take all those notes and kind of what we drew on that picture and go back and put it into, you know, engineering type drawings to go forward to county with. So
I would expect those drawings soon, because obviously we have the county meeting coming up. So can certainly get the conceptual drawings to everyone as soon as I have.
And then it was my understanding, Eric, with the going forward to county meeting with these drawings is if they say, no, this isn't going to work, then we're at this meeting and we're going to say, okay, then what will you accept?
Yes.
What are we going to insert here? So that we're not doing this back and forth again of, okay, now we leave the county meeting and we come back forward with another drawing. No, it's to get there and say, okay, what is going to work and what do we insert here where you say you're not going to accept it? So.
This is a genius idea. I mean, it really is a great idea. So hopefully, I think we have a really good jumping off point.
I think so too. But you know, let's see how it works at county.
Yeah.
So, and it seems like there is some, you know, concrete interest in all parties and county with the city and with Cochrane and with us. So hopefully this could, you know, fingers
Heidi,
crossed.
I think you're right. I haven't been doing this anywhere near as long as you or Bob or any of the other team members, but this feels a million times better than last time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's never seemed like we've had all four entities on the same.
Especially the county wanting to get
Right.
something done changes the whole world.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that they want us to do something all the way across the highway because we weren't supposed to do anything with that.
Well,
I'm not
ideally-
asking any questions. I'm just doing it.
No, exactly. And ideally, a long time ago, that was kind of included in it, but I think we all just kind of gave up with the train station and just chopped it then right at our Art of Entertainment. So, but hey, let's go for it, you know?
Yeah, might as well. Get it while it's hot.
Right.
Hey, folks, was there any discussion in your committee meeting about the railroad? And since we're going to be in their right of way now, the reason we lopped it off, like Heidi just said, was because we knew that we would have to get them involved. Did the representative from Cochrane mention that at all?
So the engineering drawings would not include things right in the railroad right of way. So obviously, you know, for that space of right of way, right, Baker to the railroad bed itself, you know, we can't grade separate, you know, build a wall or anything in that space. But the transit crossing, the railroad is aware, and well, it's really one lane in some regards, hitting it there as it is, but They are aware of meaning the roadway crossings may be changing in terms of going to one lane and the restripings. But I don't think there was any discussion of beautification or improvements within the railroad right of way up in that space.
Okay, even on the south side, Eric, south side of the tracks where we're gonna be changing the lanes and the striping, that would not constitute.
Well, we did not discuss, we did not discuss improvements and such. It was really, I think, and certainly committee members, you can change, correct me if I'm wrong, but our conversation about that piece was really, okay, it's gonna get restriped and repaved, essentially. That's, we sort of knew it and left it there and really didn't dive in onto what improvements could be made in that segment.
We discussed maybe changing the direction of going up and over the tracks to make it not so acute of a turn there, but that would involve the railroad. It would involve changing really kind of the layout of Big Bend, and that was just way too beyond our scope. So, and even when we're talking the Baker section of it, we did not talk changing anything in the railroad right away, but there is a certain section of that land there that is still actually Webster right away, not railroad. It's not all railroad right away, which was kind of good too. So, Josh?
Yeah, it was loosely mentioned about potentially carrying the barrier, the little island in the middle, over to the other side of the train track, but it was the Concord representative basically made it sound like that was going to be pretty iffy, and that was going to be completely up to county if they let us bring it over there or not. And outside of the right of way, obviously, we'd have like a break in the median.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of up to county if we can even do anything other than striping over there.
But there were other alternatives like coming from that direction, and that is, the speed limit drops, that you have the flashing light, flashing lights or whatever. But we'd have to discuss all those particulars with county, how we can do that.
Well, if that was intentional, that was a good solution. Just not touch the railroad right away and make all the alterations on each side of it. So that good idea.
Right.
Yeah, he basically said it's not worth involving the railroad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the last thing we discussed at the meeting was, the bump outs. I know that St. Louis County has said they're okay with the bump outs, and then we're getting the Metro bus. I still call it bi-state bus in my head, but the Metro bus, because the bus stops, were looking at how that's configured to make sure, because the bus stops have not been used as they used to be used prior to COVID. Alan kind of brought that to light. And so we're trying to figure out how those bus stops are actually being used now and how they're projected to be used. And so they're, Cochrane is reaching out to Metro and figuring all the details out about that, because that may affect the bump outs, because we may then ask Metro to affect the bus stops and not have so many of them along this section between Elm and the railroad tracks.
I actually called to adopt a bus stop right in front of the studio.
Mhm.
And even though it's an active bus stop and people do stand there, the lady panicked on me and said, that thing has been taken off. Nobody's supposed to be stopping there. It is an inactive bus stop. And she wouldn't let me adopt it. And all of a sudden I keep seeing people, apparently it's like they're supposed to be stopping there in case they're ahead of schedule and waiting or something like that. But people are still using it. So that would be very valuable information to know.
Okay.
If we look at the stop closest to Elm, down on that end, westbound, which is stop 8238, we did walk down there after with Cochrane. The bump out will be able to fit, and should Metro push back and say we're going to keep that stop, it's really a matter of parking. So the bump out will work and have enough room to bring a bus into the stop. If the bus stop has to stay, it's really a matter of that parking loss as we've added bump outs, and that space could be used for parking, on-street parking in front of that area there. We did not look 8239, which is across the street on the eastbound part of the south side of Big Bend there. Looks like the stop is right in the right turn lane that goes, dedicated right turn lane. So
It is.
not
It
likely.
is.
Yeah, not likely to get parking back out of a dedicated right turn lane. That's not changing. So And then obviously 15092, which is down farther on Big Bend in front of Heidi near your area or down,
Yep.
down that area. And then Chris, we did not see a sign on the north side of the road in front of your area. So I don't know if they're stopping there or just using it as a space across the street, but we didn't see a bus stop sign up on the post. So.
Yeah,
But
that's all that's there is the
Okay.
post sign.
But honestly, it's kind of way too many stops for this small area to, there should be
Well-
one on each side max. So,
So those are, yes, those are questions we have in the Metro about, about those, where are we gonna put stops? What's your real plan? Because with COVID, there's not been a transit recovery in terms of ridership and such. So what's the real plan for this route as we're looking forward? So.
right.
Did you guys look at the Alma Big Bend intersection? Did Cochran have that? The last reason I bring this up, the last time that anybody met with county, Jim Knowles sort of hand drew, or maybe it was more formal than that, but he sort of widened out or flattened out the island that we were proposing at Big Bend at Alma. And Christie, who was trying to get on, by the way, today, but couldn't get on.
I'm on. I'm
Oh,
on.
she's not. Okay. She thought it, sort of made it more dangerous. And did you guys spend any time looking at that intersection or that bump out at that intersection?
We did address that Chrissy had concerns about that. So we were looking at that from an engineering perspective. We asked Cochran to look at that. So.
And we did walk down there afterwards and, the engineer stood in the intersection and, well, safely in the intersection and tried to, game out pencil and paper on what we could do there. So.
Well, it sounds like the committee is doing a great job for us. Appreciate it. Any other questions on streetscape or for anybody, for Eric or the committee on that?
No, when is the meeting with county again?
So we're just waiting on the area engineer to give us his dates. The county folks have said next week or late next week or early the week following.
Okay.
So the goal is to, obviously get to some semblance of agreement so Cochran can create the engineering drawings. And then we can look into the grant narratives and have enough time for review, make sure you're comfortable, the council. And since if we do go to the double rights that we talked about, we'll need to have a transmission from Crossroads to the city council about, moving those ordinances, changing those turns, on Gore and Baker. And we certainly don't want to go through all of this and have the city council say, no, we're not changing Gore and Baker. So, so we need to make sure to have enough time in the cycle so that when the grant is submitted, the parties are all in agreement, which we certainly will help with getting the city council there. So.
Gotcha.
Stay the course.
Mhm.
Eric, should we proceed in the agenda, the rest of?
Certainly, let me grab the agenda here and I'll pull it back up so you can all see. Douglas Hill, we don't have the representatives here. The reason I put this on the agenda was for the simple purpose of all boards and commissions have been invited to provide any comments, feedback, suggestions, if they wish, by November 12th to the city council on Douglas Hill. Obviously, the redevelopment project is in near the old Webster Business District, but as you are a commission of the city council, I wanted to make sure that you had this opportunity to discuss it, ask any questions you have of me. If there is anything you want created in the name of Crossroads to go to the council so we can start putting that together. It is all up to you. I'm going to leave it pretty much there. I mean, if you don't know what Douglas Hill is, I wonder where you've been, but then again, we've been living, eating and breathing that project for 6 months here or longer at the city. So excuse my humor, but the Douglas Hill is getting pretty deep. So.
Does anyone feel the need that Crossroads needs to make an opinion or comment on that?
Would we have to have a consensus?
Yeah, I think we should if we're going to make a comment.
I don't think I know enough to comment about it yet.
The only comment I have is just out of concern from seeing the designs, from the elegant pictures down to seeing the models. I'm just really, really concerned that it's not going to, they're not going to spend extra money to make it look like it fits within Webster Groves. It looks like they're going to just put up little mini high-rise buildings there. And I'm just worried about how cheap they'll look, how they'll withstand stuff, how they'll fit in with the community around it. And I can't find any real images on that, Eric, if you know any. But like if you look at the Galleria where they have the boulevard across the street from it with the apartments above it and they've got the streetscape, if they were doing that, I would sign off on it in 2 seconds. But what I looked at, and I'm sorry if this offends anyone, looks like Pruitt-Igoe, the model.
Absolutely. Looks like a mini Pruitt-Igoe.
So
Very
let me hop in. I'm sorry I didn't pay attention to the participants, Chris, because I don't want to stop you. I think they've heard it. Liz Austin is here. Larry Chapman, I am bringing you in as well. They are from Douglas Hills, so they're here to answer any questions.
Great.
I'm sorry. So
Hi, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. I was
sorry, that's my fault. I forgot to check who was
No,
on.
you're fine. I was double pinging poor Eric. I'm like, no, we're here. No, we wanted to make sure we made ourselves available in case you guys have any questions. Also wanted to throw up a couple documents to save you guys some time from both. Eric did a fantastic job of explaining TIF at the October 5th City Council meeting. So I don't know if you guys had the time to look at that. I'm going to throw that up in addition to Larry's presentation that talks about, obviously our reasons as Webster residents, why we became involved in the project. And then we did have a third party company called Show Me Victories that kind of pulled the community at large. I know that there's a lot of vocal comments on Facebook. A lot of those residents are very near to the development. We really wanted to see the broader range of what the residents of Webster thought. So I'm going to throw that up. But I think Larry is on now.
Yeah, I'm on. I'm in my car, so I apologize for that. I had a different meeting scheduled. I had this on a different date. But anyway, go ahead, Liz, and I can work by listening and I can answer the question that was just asked about what it's going to feel like. One of the things we did on purpose is we broke the streetscape up into 8 buildings rather than 2 or less. I mean, a lot of the developments in St. Louis County, they'll do as many units as we're planning in 1 building or 2. And so we broke it up intentionally so we would have different designs on each building that would be very compatible with Webster. And then we focused on a huge amount of streetscape and improvements that will feel much like the boardwalk. I would hope substantially better.
Okay, so what you're saying then, if I'm hearing this right, is it will look like that a little bit like that setup that they have for the place across from the Galleria, where there'll be street level shops and
yes.
But they won't. I guess what I'm worried about is the people who are building the buildings get to decide the facades, how they're building, if they use brick, if they put balconies on them, if they don't put balconies to break up the flatness of it. Who controls the look and feel? Because once things seem to get underway, everything changes. It's like all of a sudden, we ran out of budget, or this happened, or the ground's too soft, we can't do this. And somehow it seems like a lot of these projects evolve back to something that wasn't where we started. How do we know? Like, I live right by it, to be upfront with you, and I'm not I'm not against it, I'm for it, but I'm really concerned that it looks like we add Chesterfield $1 million mile mall kind of setup there, and it just doesn't go with the neighborhood at all. So that's all I was worried about.
And so that's those super fair questions, super great comments, actually. And I live right down the street in Webster Groves as well. And so I feel a lot about what our responsibility is. the answer to your question is, and this is going to be, one part's going to be silly. We're building on solid rock, so it's not going to be any soft cells. Let me put you to rest on that.
Sorry.
But that's okay. But we are going to be in charge of that, with the possible exception of the final design of the office building, which may be designed and built by someone else. Green Street and Seneca will be the developers of all of those buildings. And we've got a great team of planners and designers. And, we're talking about balconies and bump outs and doing all sorts of things. In fact, when we went through the process of doing the zoning ordinance, if you read it, we have some relief on being able to hang out the building over the sidewalks for just what you're talking about. I'm super interested in doing something that's very compatible with Webster. In fact, when we think about Webster Grocer, and what I do and our team does, we think about, okay, how did Webster get here? Somebody put in streets, somebody put in infrastructure, which is our first phase. And then people came in behind it and they did different buildings with different designs that create the atmosphere that we have. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. And so when we have 8 buildings instead of 1 or 2, we're able to do different looks, but do a super high quality project. And we're committed to doing that. And Phil and I, when it comes to the apartment parts of it, we're committed to continue to own that long term and be part of the community. And we'll do an overriding, what they call a set of covenants, conditions, and restrictions that will have design standards that people have to live with, that will be deed restrictions on the ground. So if something terrible were to happen, like Phil and I got hit by buses and were killed and somebody came over, they would have to live with those rules too. But, our value is going to be dependent completely upon the value we create in doing a great job. And if we do something that isn't fitting into the Webster Groves community, it would not be good for us. It would not be good for us or our bottom line.
I thank you. I worry, and not about you necessarily, but I worry about the cost to do the extras and make it unique and cool. I've gone a little extreme on my buildings.
Yeah.
But in Webster, like the gas station and the old Spanish building, but
yeah,
I just want to keep that charm instead of, and I love the idea of what you're doing. I just worried it was going to end up looking mass market, way out in the county, kind of just land clear, drop some stuff in, call it a day, and try to make it
well,
as free as possible.
if that were to happen, me, Liz, Joel Oliver, all of them live in West, we run out of town. We have no plans to go anywhere. In fact, I hope to live in one of those someday.
All right. And I
just
appreciate
add,
it.
just on that point, and I want to add, I'll put my little regulator hat on. All of Douglas Hill buildings and the plans and the proposals still have to go to the architectural review board.
Well, that's true.
So
We have
so this
to go
is
through
not
all
a, once the council votes this fall, winter, we're done, right? I mean, it's just free game. There is still all the things, no different than if you're plopping a new house down on a rebuild and such. There are going to be those plan reviews done at this level with public involvement and public meetings. So
that's true. Very true.
The documents you shared, Liz, on those, does that have any of the updates to the plans? Because there weren't townhouses added to the corner of Kirkham and Rock Hill. And then one project I saw had 4 or 6 townhouses slid down there at the bottom. Kind of where there's a little house there now. I just don't know the latest and greatest. And I didn't understand, honestly, how those houses even sat there, because the creek next to it, and it looked like the back door faced Kirkham. So it was kind of an odd layout for me.
Well, no, the front doors should face Kirkham. There'll be a very narrow one-way alley in the back that will come in from Rock Hill. We didn't want any cars exiting onto Rock Hill, come behind the buildings and exit onto Kirkham. And there will be some small townhomes there, but they won't be particularly large. And so if you look at the size, there's a little house, forget the design for a minute. There's a little house that's kind of sitting on stilts right there at St. John and Kirkham. That would be about the size of what we would be talking about, although not that design, trust me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just love that creek, and I liked what you were doing with the walkway behind it. And then it looked like once you put in those townhouses, that nature walk that you were putting back there.
Oh no. So the cool thing is and the plans have to evolve, but to go from where we are in terms of concept plans to actual construction plans is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars more than we've already spent, which is at about $1 million. But I can tell you from what we know, the creek does get rather close to the townhomes there. Then as you go east, it immediately turns and starts going to the south again. And then it meanders back behind the church and then goes under Gore. That's where the biggest area will be between the creek and the Riverwalk. That's where there'll be the biggest separation, the biggest landscape areas. And yes, it will be relatively close to those homes, the townhomes that we're planning. But then immediately east of the townhomes, there's going to be a big pond, a wet pond that we're going to put in there so that we can actually have some real water that's collected, 365 days a year and actually have aquatic life. If you walk that creek today, there really is no significant aquatic or other life in it. It's brick and debris and rock and things like that on the bottom. And what we're going to do is carve that out, and we're going to create a bottom and bench it up so that it can do what it really wants to do. And we'll coordinate that with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, as well as the city MSD and others. But the Corps has a lot to say over this, and they're looking to us to improve the value of that creek substantially from an ecological standpoint.
And Larry, I'm showing your presentation, and it's got the.
This one was mine, sorry. This is my presentation.
It's okay.
Oh,
so which one is it?
It's got it's just talking about TIF ordinances. There's pictures on this one of some houses and stuff like that. They have overhangs and pop out for bay windows and breaks in the roof line and overhangs. Is this really what you guys are thinking about doing?
Are you talking about the big buildings on Main Street or the townhomes? Because the big buildings on Main Street, that's exactly what we're talking about.
These are the townhome images, Larry.
Yeah, well, that
taken
too,
from-
except those are shown as 3-story, and these are probably more like 2-story with a raised up off the ground for a garage in the back. You won't see anything but a nice front stoop. But yeah, they'll be very nice like that. That's exactly what we're planning to do.
Okay. I just wanted to get an idea. Thank you.
Yeah, we have, if you were to look at the big images of the big buildings, bigger buildings, they all have balconies, and I mean, we couldn't rent them or sell them if we didn't have all those amenities on them.
Yeah, I know that. Long story short, when I was in the city, we did a lot of this, and I bought in and worked with City Hospital. When we switched over, I bought units, and in the middle of the project, everything got cut. All the common rooms got cut. Angles got cut, materials were cut down, all the open space was changed, and everything, excuse my language, went to shit.
I'm sorry to hear that. How is it doing now? I don't know if is it doing well? I mean, it sounds like it's short-sighted.
No, it did not do well. I sold out all the units we had and everything, but ultimately they couldn't even, everyone lost their ass on it. And then it turned into rentals. But the point I had was we had the best intentions.
Well, I don't know who the developer was. I've been doing this 42 years. Phil's been doing it 37 years. I would just suggest you reach out to and research our reputations, because I would hope you're going to find them to be what we say we're going to do is exactly what we do.
No, I know you have done that. I'm just worried because this is now our neighborhood, and it's like one shot.
Like I said, that's super fair questions to ask.
And I'll shut up now. Thank you, Larry.
You don't have to. Anybody else? I'm really happy to answer any questions. I don't know what images Liz is showing because I am in my car, but we're very proud of what we put out there, and we believe sincerely that it's going to be a huge benefit to the community. And I know there are people concerned about some things, and hopefully we're addressing those as best we can within the limits of feasibility.
And Liz, if it looks like that plan on that you just sent for the website, the Douglas Hill, if it looks like those images at the top, it will absolutely be incredible in the header.
Yeah. So Larry, I just shared our new website. There's some sliding images through there. Unfortunately, we don't have the townhomes in that, but Chris, I'll get those over to Eric and he can share those with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
those images are the more recent ones that were after a lot of vigorous back and forth between our planners and architects. And I think they're pretty reflective of what you're going to see us do.
Okay. I just brought them up on the screen for everyone real quick, but that kind of looks a little bit like where they did some of the design work down by the Ritz-Carlton around the shops right there on the left and right, and wrapped it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you, and you'll notice, I mean, our intention is to really create a lot of different opportunity for community and gathering.
That's what I'm
in a-
excited
In a
about.
lot of different events. So you'll see the larger streetscape, the pedestrian views, the history telling. We're working with a number of groups on making sure that we get that right. So I would just encourage you guys, the city council meeting, the public hearing is still continued over into the next meeting. So, if you're in support of the project, we're encouraging people to let the council know by either showing up in person or sending them an email. They need to hear the good news about this.
And Larry and Liz, thank you for all you're doing. I know you don't always hear the positive. This could be a game changer. Kirkwood built out their downtown and then built common spaces for music. And it wasn't great, but they did some of it and it worked. It's easy to critique and it's easy, to say things from the sidelines, but to pull this off is amazing. So if you do pull this off and you get it like this, I am going to be thrilled and I will share that with anyone. I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I just was paranoid that it would get cut short.
And it's okay to be paranoid. I mean, the world doesn't work always the way people say it's going to work, but we're focused really hard. And I wouldn't do this if I didn't live there. It just wouldn't. It would be different. And it's because we all live there and raised our kids there and have a vested interest in the community. It's worth it. And I really believe the future of Webster needs to see some growth. It needs to see some diversity in living lifestyles. It needs to see all those things that make a great suburban community great. And I think this will do it. I really believe that, or I wouldn't be involved, honestly.
Well,
Larry,
thank you.
I told somebody last week, they were asking me about it. I said, this needs to go through. Exactly what you just said. It looks terrific. And thanks for coming to our meeting and
Yeah, well, you're welcome. And we are
Yes, thank you.
available to answer questions. And if you have concerns, please share them. I'm absolutely confident we can address any of the concerns that you have.
I will throw out there that the Chamber of Commerce has officially endorsed us. So they let the council know, and we're kind of letting the community know through social media. So, we're more than happy to take more endorsements if you guys are so inclined.
okay, well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be
So
great.
we don't want to gotta throw that out there, but not trying to twist anybody's arm. But if you are inclined, we would love it.
Yeah.
Will do.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. We'll jump off so you guys can continue your meeting and have some private conversation. And then Eric knows how to get a hold of me in case there's any follow-up.
Enjoy
we-
your day.
We appreciate all that you're doing.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bob, my apologies there. I didn't realize they were on, so I
Well,
got
hey,
that. So-
Fantastic. I mean, what a presentation for us.
Yeah, so we, again, there is no pressure. There is a November 12th deadline. You can all take time to ponder on this. If you do need to come back together and want to talk about doing something, we can schedule a special meeting. Or if you just want to address this personally, if you're so inclined, that's fine. I just want to put it all on the table that as staff, we're happy to help convene you if you do need or want to have further conversation about this.
Folks, do you
Al-
think we could, make a comment or an endorsement? What's everybody's belief on that?
It sounds like we're all kind of, we're all for it. So why would we not endorse it? Because he's right. We need to grow as a community, diversify and everything. And I think this actually provides all of that.
Anybody else?
I'm a
agree.
bit concerned about the greenery that's coming down. I don't know when they talk about diversifying the people that live there, how much are these gonna cost? We already
Well, that's
voted
true.
down the duplexes, which would have been bringing in diversity, and I don't,
I believe there's some intent for diversity in the project. So I think there's some maybe more competitively priced.
So I can answer a part of that question, and certainly it's whether or not it satisfies the caution, that's up to you. But There is a requirement, and this will likely be caught, I say likely because everything can change with our council, but the council is expecting a 10% commitment to what's called workforce housing, which in general has been a unit affordable to a beginning teacher at Webster Grove School District, which is about $41,000 a year salary. So there's a requirement that 10% of the units fit that. That doesn't mean that, here's a shack with 10% of the units, right? It's all blended within the buildings that would be constructed. So now obviously to make anything feasible, and part of the problem of this site is that there's so much infrastructure work that has to go into building on that site, that there will be very high-end price condos, I'm sure, as well, and and such. But that, I'll just be blunt with you, even as someone who's very well paid by the taxpayers of this city, it would be a struggle for me as a single person in a very competitive market to just hop into a nice house in Webster Groves at the drop of a hat. So, we don't live in an area where we, expect folks coming out of poverty to just slide right into Webster Groves. Unfortunately, our median home value went up $50,000 in 10 years between the two censuses. And so and I'm not poo-pooing anything you said, Allison. I just wanted to give you a sense of some of the spectrum we look at when we're trying to talk about affordability and diversifying the housing stock. So
I didn't appreciate the comments I heard. I don't remember where I heard him, but maybe he was on the radio or something, but about Webster not having walkable, they're trying to make this walkable space. I see it in the pictures. Looks like they have, but you still got a street going through the middle. They just make wider sidewalks.
Well, I think that Main Street there is meant to be much more of, it'll certainly have commercial traffic, but also to have a wider space. There's also the boardwalk down on the Shady Creek area. That obviously is not public land right now, and it's an area owned by the church. I don't think they mind if people walk through it, but it is not a traversable area. It's not, there's not a trail system built through there. So I do think they add walkability space there in that regard, but that's a value judgment as well. So,
Christy, any ideas from you?
I'd like to actually get on their website. I was looking at everything yesterday on the Webster website, and I didn't see too much than a few pictures, but I wouldn't mind getting on the Douglas one that she sent out and take a look at it. I'm all for it. I think it's revitalizing the Webster Groves area. I'd love to see more stores and apartments, and I like the idea of with the Webster University students being able to rent apartments there. And to me, that's being diversified too. It's the students and the older clientele. I like it. I feel like I was just at Nashville last weekend, and God, that town is just so much fun and booming and so much energy. And then you come back to St. Louis, I'm like, oh, we don't have anything like that around here, and it's kind of sad because we're such an older city. And I think something like this is, and kind of like how Cortex area down by the West End, that's kind of bringing a lot of new energy to St. Louis. I think this would really help Webster a lot.
Heidi and Josh, anything from you guys?
I agree completely.
I agree.
Well, okay, so do we want to make an endorsement? I'm back to that question.
I'm fine with endorsing it.
What does that actually mean when we
Well,
endorse?
I was gonna ask Chris, since he's probably the most personally invested in it, to maybe just write a narrative endorsing, if that's what it sounds like the group is in favor of the project. Chris, do you want to write a couple of sentences, whatever, like Crossroads District supports you, great, good luck, whatever you want to say, and maybe can you email it? And Eric, is this permissible that we handle this?
Absolutely. So if you're going to move forward, and I just want to pop in and answer the question and help a little bit. I think, really it's a comment towards the council, right? That you're supportive of the project. As you are a public body, it would be, a public record. It would go in the record and be there. You could make it in writing if you chose. As a body, you could also come to the next segment of the public hearing and make a statement orally as well. You don't have to. I'm just putting all the options there. What it doesn't do is it doesn't bind you in any way to say that you have to continue supporting it. You're supporting it now. If this all falls apart, you can be critical. It also doesn't bind you personally as the people. So this doesn't mean Chris Westmeyer or Bob Springer are endorsing it. It's only the body that is the Crossroads Business District Commission.
Right, that's what I was trying to get to too, Eric, was, Chris, you can certainly write your own narrative for your own family, but yeah, if you want to write something for Crossroads as well, that you could circulate, and then we can give you thumbs up or thumbs down on it.
Are you saying for me or Eric to write that?
I was going to have you write it because, like I said, I think you're the one that's seems to be most emotionally invested in it, probably because you live right by it. But I thought you'd do the best job on it too.
Okay, so
for that reason.
I'll be more than happy to do it. And then Eric, can I give it to you to share with the team and make sure it's all organized, legal, everything?
Not a problem. And I generally in the past, and for most commissions, the chair speaks on behalf of the commission. So if that's how it wants to be done, it doesn't have to be. It could just be nobody's name, it could just be from the Crossroads Business.
Yeah, let's just do it that way.
Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
So
From Crossroads. And what's that date again, Eric? The November what meeting?
November 12th is the deadline to have all those into council. The next public hearing date is November 3rd, that Tuesday. I think it's the 3rd, if I'm correct. And I'm looking at my calendar. The council will continue the public hearing at that date. So if we have it before the 3rd, it'll be entered into that record, or it will be entered into the record by November 12th. So
Eric, what's your email?
Peterson, I'll put it in the chat for everyone, okay?
Thanks.
Well, I know we've gone past an hour. Eric, do you want to, back to the agenda? We're probably in new business is my guess. Is there any, is there like a quick summation you can give us?
For your city updates, yes. So I won't go through the whole list because much of it you've heard. I just want to add, Plan Commission was canceled for October next month. They take up text amendments to the tree and landscape ordinance, which I know in the history of Webster Groves could be just as controversial as Douglas Hills. So we know we have that coming up. And then also there is a rezoning in Old Webster at 55 Moody for a planned commercial with multifamily at that space. So that rezoning application, which is near Douglas Hill, but we are going to see, and I'm just putting this on the table, especially with, if you look at Old Orchard, the Subaru dealership, sitting vacant, we're going to start seeing the city come into more planned commercial zoning requests with multifamily, multi-purpose commercial and housing requests coming in. And so I say that to just make you aware, because you never know when Crossroads may, come into that space, right? If Schnucks decided tomorrow to leave that space, what would go there and how would that space be redeveloped? So we're really starting to see that come in as the pandemic sort of starts to wind down. So I just want to put that on the table so you're all aware that we'll see more and more of these types of rezoning requests, infill requests, really.
Eric, the Springer family would try to block Schnucks leaving the district. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Right. It was a good example. It was my easiest open big piece of land I had at the moment. So.
All right. Well, thanks for that update. If there's no other questions or comments, you see on our agenda, our next meeting is November 18th. Good luck to the committee in getting its meeting together with the county. Feel free, if you want anybody, to email us, let us know how you're doing, or if you have any questions or need anything from us. So if that's it, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Aye.
And a second looks like from Kelly. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Jeff, good to see you at the meeting.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.